I thought I had loved my stepchild as my own, but don't act like you're my mom, you're not my mom. I don't even want to see your face, she said, rejecting the invitation to her wedding. So, I replied, fine, do as you like. But in return, don't expect any help from me. Time really flies, and before I knew it, I'm approaching the age of 50 next year. Just a part-time housewife like any other. When I got married, I thought I was on my way to that perfect kind of bliss. However, reality was far from what I had imagined. I met my husband through a friend. A drunk friend suddenly contacted me. And that's how I ended up at a pub where my husband was also present. My friend was terribly drunk, and in hindsight, taking care of him with my future husband was our first collaborative task. At the time, I didn't even know his name. But I remember being attracted to his kind tone and calm demeanor. We got married 10 years ago. However, back then, I was quite troubled about marrying him. There was even a time when I considered calling off the marriage. This was because he was divorced, and he had a daughter from his previous marriage. Honestly, I was anxious about my relationship with her. Marrying me would mean a big change in her life. The thought of it not working out scared me. But apart from my concerns about his daughter, I had no other complaints. I loved my husband, and he was very considerate of my anxiety. I mustn't be weak, I thought, and decided to marry him, finally becoming a family. It was my first marriage, and I had no experience with child-rearing, though I had some idea from having much younger siblings. However, his daughter was in her 3rd year of middle school, a very sensitive and rebellious age. There was much to worry about. I had heard that rebellious phases occur because physical changes outpace emotional development. But I wasn't facing this alone, with my husband by my side. I believed we could gradually become a family over time. I heard that the reason for my husband's divorce was his ex-wife's infidelity. Of course, his daughter knew this too. But she was very attached to her mom and was quite young. She probably didn't understand the deep reasons behind it. Moreover, the ex-wife had told her there was a deep reason behind mommy's affair. It's natural for her to believe her beloved mom's words. But no matter the reason, an affair is an affair. My husband decided that he could not leave his daughter with such a woman, knowing that the ex-wife lacked the ability to live independently. My husband chose to take his daughter and raise her himself. He wanted to respect his daughter's feelings, so he didn't oppose her meeting her mom regularly. I thought it was not my place to comment on this, so I didn't say anything. I was aware that it would take time for his daughter to adjust, but I sensed that many difficulties lay ahead. Still, having decided to marry him, I resolved to cherish his daughter. I wanted to build a happy family, for their sake and for mine. With that resolution, I married and started our life as 3. But reality was harsh. Remarriage is more difficult than I imagined. After all, a stranger suddenly becoming a mom is expected, isn't it? When we got married, I suddenly had a daughter who was in middle school. We were both a bit confused, and our life started without any clear path. This is where I should make an effort, I thought, and tried to please her and deepen our bond. But I think I wasn't what she wanted. And each day was full of ups and downs. The things she said to me were not words one should ever say to family. Get out. You're not family. You're just tricking dad. These were mild compared to other things. Dirtier, even words that should be censored were hurled at me. No matter what I said or did, if she saw my face, it was only abuse or complaints. Even if I kept quiet, she would either not react or ignore me. Ignoring me might have been better, but her treatment of me escalated. If I prepared a meal, she would throw it away right in front of me, or even break the dishes. If I wrote something on the calendar, she would cover it up. My favorite lipstick ended up broken and unusable. She never stopped attacking me. Day by day, I grew more exhausted from her relentless harassment. If that's how you feel, I thought. and started to stop cooking and avoiding laundry, a small retaliation. Of course, that wasn't going to solve anything. And I had thought about going back to normal when she was in trouble. But instead of changing her attitude, she became even more aggressive. Finally, she started cutting up my clothes and burning my shoes. Unbelievable acts for a human being. During this time, my usually silent husband turned to me and said, "You're an adult, can't you handle this better?" It's confusing for her, having her mom suddenly change. I have been trying my best. Yet, to hear him say this. I've tried to meet her halfway again and again. But she won't listen. Of course. Maybe my efforts aren't enough, but even you must understand that there are things that can and cannot be forgiven by a child, I retorted. However, my husband almost blamed me alone, replying, "But you're the parent, right? You're her mom, so please handle it better." He knew everything that his daughter had done to me. Still, he insisted that I was the one at fault for not being able to endure or handle it well. He neither intervened between us nor thought along with me. "You're the mom," he said, as if he had nothing to do with it. I was lost and wanted to vent a little to my husband. But the atmosphere was no longer right for that. In this house, I had no allies. Is this selfish of me? My husband would look deeply displeased if I ever fought back a little. So, all I could do was take it and speak up. No matter how much abuse she hurled at me, ignored me, or harassed me. I never really wanted to apologize, nor could I feel like making up anymore. I decided to keep my interactions with her minimal and conflict-free. I chose to empty my heart and just live with my daughter. However, those days finally came to an end. My daughter, who was a middle school student, somehow reached adulthood and got a job. So she was home less often. The direct attacks decreased significantly compared to before, though she still engaged in petty harassment. My husband continued to turn a blind eye. As my daughter was getting ready to leave the house, I wondered if my feelings would change. But can I really have a good relationship with a husband who has never supported me? I pondered this to myself. I began to think deeply about the past, the present, and the future. I was fed up with my interactions with my daughter. And my love for my husband was nearly exhausted. The family I envisioned wasn't supposed to be like this. I thought about that for a while. One day, I heard that my daughter was getting married. I had a vague idea that she had a boyfriend, given the minimal interactions we had. But living together, you get to know these things. However, I was never informed about the wedding. I found out about my daughter's wedding when my husband casually asked, "What will you do about the wedding next week?" Confused, I blurted out, "What? Wait. There's a wedding? You never told me." Yes, my daughter was getting married next week, and I had not been informed at all. No invitation was sent my way. If my husband hadn't mentioned it, I might not have realized it until the day of the wedding. Then my husband said, "I figured it would be something like this." Irritated, I quickly asked, "When was it decided? Why didn't you tell me?" He responded, "I knew about the wedding when they filed for marriage. I didn't want to get involved because it's complicated when it's between them. Troublesome to deal with one's own family. From my perspective, there is no blood relation between me and my daughter, and it's the same for her. But for my husband, she is obviously his family. And I was supposed to be his chosen partner. Why wouldn't he want to be involved?" His words made the dwindling love I had fade even more. He sighed and flashed his invitation. Angered, I decided to confirm directly with my daughter. When I called, she answered grumpily, "Why are you even calling me? What do you want?" I cut to the chase, "I heard you're getting married. And you're not inviting your mom? What's the idea?" "Ah, I've never thought of you as my mom." "My mom is my mom," she retorted as usual. Indeed, her biological mom is her mom, and I don't think I can compete with that. Nor did I intend to. However, we have lived under the same roof as a family. For no short amount of time. I was shocked by her words and couldn't immediately respond. Of course, I had always been uneasy about my daughter. The harassment I had endured was too severe to be dismissed as just teenage rebellion. As if she could see right through my heart, she blurted out. "Stop kidding yourself. You're nothing to me, not family at all. If you come to the ceremony, I'll kick you out. Don't act like you're my mom. I don't want to see your face." These words made my anger surge. So, I responded. "Ah, well, if that's how you feel, do as you wish. But remember, don't expect any help from me in the future. Be prepared for that." She didn't like that and hung up the phone abruptly. Witnessing this, my husband added insult to injury by saying, "The ex-wife will be coming to the wedding. It seems our daughter invited her." I was stunned. Then I confronted my husband. "The ex-wife is attending. And you didn't tell me? Was I such a bad mom?" To which my husband calmly replied, "Well, to her, that woman is her mom, and she would be happy to have her there. You'll always be an outsider." His words cut deep, as if to gouge my heart. I couldn't believe my ears. "You'll always be an outsider." That was the last thing I wanted to hear from my husband. Why did we get married then? Why did we take the daughter? I almost screamed. I had endured aggressive behavior from my daughter. And the lack of support from my husband. But knowing that even my husband considered me an outsider filled me with despair. I can't see a future with this man anymore. Even if my daughter leaves home, I don't have the confidence to continue loving my husband. We may be married, but we are still strangers. I decided to bring up divorce around the time of my daughter's wedding. On the day of the wedding, as my husband was getting ready, he seemed to be concerned about me. However, I felt nothing for him anymore. And his glances didn't matter to me. Today, I handed him the divorce papers, becoming a complete stranger to him and my daughter. For me, it's just a return to the relationship before marriage. I secretly packed my bags, arranged for movers, and made various preparations. My daughter was cheerfully getting ready, bustling about. She still grimaced and clicked her tongue when passing by me, but that ends today. So much has happened. I couldn't help but reflect. If our relationship hadn't soured, could I have looked back on everything and cried beautiful tears of emotion? Imagining what couldn't be, I felt sad. My husband was still concerned about me. So I told him, "Don't worry about me. Focus on your daughter's wedding." Then he said, "If you had been a proper mom, we could have gone together." I was shocked by this remark. He wasn't apologetic. He was lamenting that I wasn't a good enough mom. Of course, I don't claim to have been perfect. But he never did anything significant in his dealings with our daughter. Which I don't think is what a parent does. A parent's duty is to call out wrongs, leaving it to others and then saying it's my fault. Wow, I think this is really it with him. My feelings for him had faded, but in that moment, it really sunk in that it was done. I forcibly led my husband to the entrance and saw him out, almost pushing him out the door. I have no time for sentimentality now. Once I confirmed that my husband had left, I finally began to act. I needed to erase my existence from this house before the two of them returned from the ceremony. I left the larger items to a moving company and loaded the rest into my car myself. All that was left was to place the completed divorce papers on the table and leave a note before leaving the house. The note read, "I can no longer be with you. Please divorce me." I wonder if my husband will be surprised? Or will he understand? I feel a bit guilty about dropping such news when their emotions from the daughter's wedding are heightened. But since I'm cutting ties for good, I want this last moment to be on my terms. Upon arriving at my parents' home and unloading my belongings, I was overcome with a sense of relief and exhaustion. Before I could even take a breath, my phone rang unexpectedly. It was my daughter. "Hello, what is it? Come to the wedding venue right now." Right now. I didn't know what was happening, but my daughter sounded very frantic. I wasn't informed about the wedding, and I didn't receive an invitation. I don't even know where it is, so I can't go. "I'll tell you now, just come." In her panic, my daughter desperately tried to explain the situation. Apparently, while discussing with her future in-laws about how she was raised, she casually mentioned the harassment she had directed towards me as if it were normal. She believed she was justified, especially since my husband never stopped her. However, the in-laws were appalled by the horrendous details and suddenly opposed the marriage. The groom was so frightened by his parents' reaction that he wanted to call off the wedding. Realizing the severity of the situation, my daughter begged me to come and claimed that it was all my fault and that she was in the right. I couldn't see how saying such a thing would resolve anything. From the other end of the phone, I could hear the parents arguing. "I've gotten myself into a mess," I thought as my daughter finally said. "I'm willing to apologize for everything so far. You're the mom, right? Come and help your daughter out of this pinch." Despite her near-tearful state, there was a demanding tone in her voice. She might have thought she was apologizing in her own way, but I felt no gratitude towards her. After pondering what to do, I told my daughter, "Talk to your grandparents instead." When I explained everything to the confused in-laws, they were initially shaken but began to grasp the situation after hearing my side. Once they understood, they became furious with both my daughter and my husband. In the end, the angry in-laws decided to skip the wedding and went home. Their decision strengthened the opposing relatives' resolve against the marriage. Moreover, the groom panicked, and the wedding was abruptly called off, causing chaos at the venue. When my husband returned from the already troubled wedding, he was even more surprised to find my divorce papers. He hurriedly tried to contact me, but my feelings had not changed. Not wanting to hear his voice, I texted him via Messenger, "I can't take it anymore. You never intended to truly be a family with me." He quickly replied, "Isn't it just the two of us now? Isn't it just the beginning?" Seeing no resolution in sight, I texted back, "I've lost my feelings for you over the years. I can't be with someone who cannot care for his daughter or me." I then blocked my husband. A few days later, I confirmed that the divorce was finalized, and I finally felt free. Despite my husband's attempts to reconcile, thanks to my parents' help in turning him away, things have calmed down. As for my daughter, the incident worsened relations with both families. The wedding ceremony involvement by the ex-wife complicated matters further, making repair impossible. The other side asked her to divorce immediately, but she staunchly refused. Eventually, my daughter ended up separating shortly after her marriage. The incident enraged her ex-husband's parents, deepening their distrust toward both him and my daughter. They were already not fond of the ex-wife, which only fueled their anger. The family relationship is at its worst, almost cut off. The relatives who were supposed to attend the wedding now view us coldly, and we've grown distant. The ex-wife, who had been meeting with my daughter, seems to have hidden herself away after this incident. Now, it seems my daughter and her ex-husband are living a modest life together. For me, life has become peaceful again. It's really nice not to have stress hanging over me. I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders, and I appreciate the simple things in life. It could be that this isn't about blaming anyone. To be truthful, marrying my husband was a poor decision. I don't feel any anger. I'm just happy to be done with all the stress.